Blake Shelton thought he was about to share something sweet. Like, finally, sleep easy sweet. Instead, he walked into this weird heavy silence. Not the polite kind. The kind that makes your stomach drop because, something just snapped. You've probably seen those Blake Shelton baby news posts pop up on your feed. You've definitely seen people whispering about Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani baby like it's a countdown clock. But this wasn't a headline moment. This was a private dinner at his Oklahoma ranch. No cameras, no interviews, just family and food and that comfortable, messy feeling of being home. And then Blake says it. Simple. Honest. He tells his mom and his sister that he and Gwen have been talking about having a baby together. The room changes. Fast. He's expecting smiles. Maybe a joke. Maybe somebody claps. But his mom looks down at the table. His sister goes quiet. And then his mom says, the one sentence that flips the whole night. Blake, you already have a family. That doesn't float in the air, that hits the floor. And before you jump in like, wow, that's cold, you've got to zoom out a bit. Because Blake didn't get to this moment by accident. He got here after years of being the guy who looked fine on the outside, even when his personal life was basically getting picked apart in public. For a long time, you watched him on TV with that big grin, that loud laugh, that easy country charm. It's like he could turn anything into a joke. But underneath that, Blake has admitted he put fatherhood on pause. He said it. He waited. He focused on work. He told himself, maybe later. And then later starts to feel late. Then Gwen shows up. You remember that era on The Voice? Two people coming off very public heartbreaks. Two marriages ending. Two sets of headlines that wouldn't shut up. And there they are, sitting in those red chairs, smiling like everything is totally chill. But it wasn't totally chill. Not at first. It was two bruised people trying to act normal while the whole world stared at them. And here's the thing. While all that was happening, you had Kelly Clarkson out here basically singing the feelings everyone was too scared to say out loud.
Will not break the way you did. You felt so.
That song is pure, I learned the hard way. So when people close to the situation say Blake had been thinking about a baby with Gwen for months, that actually tracks. It wasn't random. It wasn't, let's do it for the press. It was more like, I finally feel steady. I finally feel ready. And Gwen? Apparently she wasn't hesitant. If you followed Gwen at all, you know motherhood is not some cute accessory for her. She's lived it. The school chaos. The touring chaos, the real-life juggling. It makes you think of Gwen Stefani, the sweet escape, in a different way. Like escaping isn't running away, it's just trying to breathe. She survived heartbreak. She rebuilt. So when Blake told his family he felt ready, it probably felt like healing. Like this is the chapter where everything finally makes sense. But healing can scare the people who watched you get wrecked? Because Blake's past was loud. Divorce headlines. The Miranda Lambert era where everyone had an opinion. Fans turning into detectives. People acting like they knew his heart better than he did. And his mom, according to one insider, told him later that night something like, "We don't want you chasing something that brings pressure back." Pressure. That word is doing a lot of work. Pressure is every move becoming a story. Pressure is your private life turning into content for strangers. Pressure is what breaks people, even people who look strong. It's kind of impossible not to think about Kelly Clarkson here again. Her divorce didn't just stay in her house. It went everywhere. Courts. Headlines. Comment section.
But piece by piece, he collected me up off the ground.
It sounds like when someone is trying to hold a family together while the world is pulling. So when Blake's family says, "You already have a family?" part of that might be love. Real love, the protective kind. The kind that says, please don't invite chaos back in. But here's where it gets wild. Blake didn't explode. He didn't do the dramatic "I'm done" thing. He listened, which honestly makes it sadder. Because listening means he understood the fear. They adore Gwen. They love her boys. They've watched Blake finally look peaceful. So, in their minds, why risk it? Now put yourself in his shoes for 2 seconds. If you finally feel ready for something you once pushed away, do you let other people's fear decide your future, even if those people love you? That's the tension. That's the whole knot. And sources say it didn't stop at that one dinner. Weeks later, another family gathering. Same topic. This time the message is sharper. We don't need another baby in this story. Not want. Need. That word lands like a judgment even if it wasn't meant that way. Because Blake isn't talking about need, he's talking about choice. Desire. A new chapter. A chance to do something he might regret missing. And Gwen, according to someone close to her, said something that's quiet but huge. I don't want to create division. Because Gwen knows what division feels like, she lived through a very public split. She watched her world fracture and become entertainment.
For only you and God to hear. when you love someone.
She doesn't chase drama. She avoids it, even when she's right. So imagine this. You're Blake. You waited years to feel ready. You finally say it out loud. Your family reacts with caution instead of joy. And the woman you love doesn't want to cause a rift. Who do you protect? Who do you disappoint? Publicly, Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani look solid. They smile, they post, they show up, they perform. Everything looks calm. But insiders keep hinting that the family reaction never fully disappeared. It just got tucked away. And that Oklahoma ranch, it's not just a pretty backdrop. It's his roots. It's the version of Blake that existed before Hollywood and TV and viral clips. It's his mom's kitchen, his sister's laugh, late nights when life was simple. So if a life-changing conversation happens there, it feels symbolic. Like the old Blake and the new Blake are sitting at the same table.
You stay here right beside me and watch
It's
it.
right here, because it's basically, please don't take this piece away. But peace doesn't cancel opinions, especially family opinions. And here's what most people miss when they make this a Gwen versus the family thing. This wasn't about them not accepting Gwen. They adore her. This was about fear of repeating history. Fear of pressure. Fear that adding a baby turns their quiet life into a circus again. And history in Blake's world comes with a soundtrack too.
But you went away.
Even if a chapter is closed, the internet keeps reading it. Friends say Blake felt torn, not because he didn't love Gwen or her boys, but because he finally felt stable enough to try for more. And stability is fragile when you've almost lost it before. You guard it like it's glass. You've seen people like that. Maybe you are that person. You finally get peace and you're like, don't touch it. That's Blake now. And Gwen gets it. Her solo songs sometimes sound like therapy with eyeliner.
I used to love you.
And I'm not going back there. So what happens when two people who survived public heartbreak try to make a private choice? And the people who love them most complicate it. You're watching it happen without ever seeing it directly? Because since that dinner, Blake hasn't fed the baby rumors. Gwen hasn't either. Interviews get dodged. Jokes get used as shields. Smiles stay polished. And that usually means something real is going on behind the scenes. So did Blake decide peace matters more? Did Gwen step back to keep the family calm? Or are they just moving slower because this is big and you can't rush big things? Here's what hits hardest. Sometimes the biggest obstacles in a marriage don't come from haters. They come from love. The protective kind. The kind that says, please don't get hurt again. And before you pick a side, remember, you don't see the late night talks. You don't see the quiet doubts. You don't hear the question Blake might ask himself when that ranch goes still and everyone's asleep. What if I waited too long? And that question, that's the one no headline can answer. But we're not done. Because there's another layer to this story. One that connects to someone else you didn't expect, and it changes how you read that dinner table silence. You think this story is only about Blake and Gwen. Honestly, it isn't. There's a third person sitting in the background of this whole thing, even if nobody says her name at that ranch table. Kelly Clarkson. Not in a messy way, not in a secret romance way. More like an emotional mirror. Because if you watched Kelly's divorce play out, you saw what pressure does when it gets inside the walls of a home. And Blake watched that too. He sat next to her on The Voice while her real life was getting dragged into headlines. You could literally watch it happen in slow motion. 1 minute she's smiling for TV, the next minute the internet is arguing about custody like it's a sport. So when Blake's family says they're scared of pressure, you have to admit that fear didn't come from nowhere. Think about it. Kelly didn't just break up. She went through lawyers, court dates, tabloids, and a public opinion machine that never sleeps.
Think that everything good is gone. Think you left me broken down. Think that
It sounds like someone forcing herself to stand up again. Now rewind to that ranch dinner. Blake hears his mom worry about stress. He hears that quiet warning about media storms. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he probably sees Kelly's situation as a flashing sign that says, this can get ugly fast. Because it can. And this is where it gets kind of heartbreaking, because the baby talk stops being cute. It turns into a question about survival, not just love. Balance is rare in celebrity marriages. That's not shade. That's reality. You saw Gwen lose stability once. You saw Blake lose it once. You saw Kelly lose it once. 3 big names. 3 very public resets. So when patterns keep repeating around you, you start wondering if you can really break them, or if you're just next in line. But here's where the story flips a little. People close to Blake suggest he didn't instantly back down. He reportedly told someone he didn't want regret making the decision for him this time. And regret is heavy because it's the one thing you can't fix later with money, fame, or a new project. If you go back, Blake used to joke about kids like it was a distant idea. Maybe someday, we'll see. Then later he admitted he might have waited too long. So now you've got a man who's finally ready. A woman who already knows what motherhood costs, and a family that's terrified of reopening wounds. That mix is explosive. This is where a lot of marriages crack, but Blake and Gwen didn't crack. At least, not publicly. They did something else. They got quieter. And quiet can mean a lot of things. Quiet can mean we solved it. Quiet can mean we're stuck. Quiet can mean we're waiting. Quiet can mean we decided something and we're keeping it ours. You ever notice how couples who survive storms stop explaining themselves? They don't owe the world a PowerPoint. They just live. That's what it feels like here. And Gwen has always had this way of turning pain into a shiny pop song that still cuts you. Calm on the surface, but it's really about learning to stand next to your past without falling apart. Blake has his version of that too. He'll laugh, crack a joke, act like nothing touches him. But then a song comes out and you're like, oh, there it is. Here's a detail people overlook when they argue about another baby. Blake has leaned all the way into stepdad life. He shows up. He talks about the boys like he's proud. He doesn't treat it like second place. So when his family says you already have a family, they might genuinely mean, look what you already built. Don't risk losing it. That makes it complicated because it's not cruel. It's protective. And yeah, you can want more without rejecting what you already have. That's true. But try explaining that at a family dinner when emotions are high and everyone thinks they're saving you. It's hard. Also, Gwen's line, I don't want to create division, might not be her stepping back forever. It might be her saying, I'm not letting my love become the reason your family splits. That's a very Gwen move. Because her relationship history taught her something brutal. Love can be real and still get eaten alive by pressure. Silence is a shield. Now add the audience into this, because you're part of the story too. The public loves the idea of a big romantic new chapter. People want the fairy tale. Comment sections are full of, they should have a baby, and Blake deserves to be a dad, and Gwen would be amazing again. But then other people show up with the opposite take. Why mess up what's working? Those boys already have him. They finally look peaceful. Both sides sound like family. Both sides sound like love. Just different kinds. And if you're thinking, why does this feel so personal? It's because you've watched them grow up in public. Blake went from the funny guy with heartbreak headlines to the guy who finally looks settled. Gwen went from punk pop chaos to stepmom life with a cowboy husband. And Kelly went from fairy tale marriage to rebuilding from scratch. That's why this hits. It feels like watching Friends, not celebrities. And right around the moment you start rooting for the fairy tale,
We used to look cold.
been singing about the pull between calm and complicated for years. And this is where it gets even crazier. Blake's ranch is not just land, it's his safe zone. It's the opposite of Hollywood. It's the place where he can be normal, or as normal as Blake Shelton can be. So, if a new chapter brings cameras, paparazzi, and nonstop baby speculation into that space, is it worth it? You might say yes instantly. Most people would, but if you've lived under headlines that dissect your heart, the answer isn't simple. It's like living in a house that finally stopped leaking and somebody suggests adding another floor. Great idea, maybe. But you're the one who remembers the floods. And that brings us back to Kelly. Kelly has talked about peace like it's oxygen. Not a luxury, a need. Feeling the same pain, just in a new outfit. Blake's family might be thinking in prevention mode. Not rejection. Prevention. There's a difference. But here's the twist that makes this story feel human instead of soap opera. Insiders say the conversation didn't end with a blow-up. No screaming, no doors. It ended with long pauses, with that awkward, let's talk later energy. And then, later, it became private talks between Blake and Gwen under Oklahoma stars. No ultimatums. No dramatic threats, just two adults asking a hard question. What does our future look like if we choose peace first? And that question sounds simple until you really sit with it. Because choosing peace first can mean choosing patience. It can mean choosing boundaries. It can mean choosing to keep something private even when the world begs for details. It can also mean choosing not to do something even if you want it because you're protecting the whole structure. That's grown-up love. It's not always exciting. It's just real. And it might explain why they don't shut down Blake Shelton baby rumors completely, but they also don't confirm anything. Because life decisions don't move at headline speed, they move at heart speed. And heart speed is slow, sometimes frustratingly slow. You want a clear answer. You want the yes or no. You want the announcement or the shutdown. But sometimes the strongest couples don't give you that. They don't perform their private choices for strangers. They just protect what they have. And when you see Blake and Gwen smiling on stage, try not to assume it's fake. It might be the calm that comes after hard conversations, after compromise, after choosing each other without needing applause.
I've been a walking heartache. I've made a mess of me.
My ground, my rules, and maybe that's what he's doing now. Building a life that doesn't get controlled by noise. So next time you see a clip and the comments are full of, "Is Gwen pregnant?" or "When will Blake have a baby?" remember that one sentence at the ranch dinner. You already have a family. It was a question. And here's the real question for you, the one you'll probably argue about in the comments. If you finally got peace after years of chaos, would you risk it for a new dream, even if it's a beautiful one? Or would you protect what you already fought to build, even if part of you still wonders, what if? Because that's the part nobody wants to admit. Sometimes you don't choose between love and love. You choose between love and pressure. And that choice can change everything.